I think that's a knee-jerk reaction. You see the headline focus, right? On, off, on switch, off switch, on switch, off switch. We don't play that. We're looking at cycles. And so if we're looking for downside risk to growth, some sort of growth risk, we're going to be looking at what is the cyclical impulse and is there a negative shock? Because that combination is a problem. That's when we step up and adjust our risk outlook. And as I said, for the last several months, I mean, I've been saying this for a while, actually, the window of vulnerability on growth is not open. I think the game changer coming into this year was the inflation cycle upturn. Goldilocks last year. This year, inflation cycle upturn.
And you mentioned Japan and Germany are tea leaves out there. I mean, Paul's noted that.
Yeah. We had coming in, we've talked earlier about the U.S. inflation cycle upturn on the backs of the global industrial upturn, which pushed up commodity prices at the beginning, way before the war, at the end of last year. And it's gone global. So the future inflation gauges for Japan turned up really cleanly at the beginning of the year, Germany as well. Even, I think you were talking about China just a moment ago. Even in China, a few months ago, everybody was worried about deflation in China. There, the future inflation gauge is also moving to the upside. So when you have JGBs at a 29-year high, the bunds at a 15-year high, our yields are higher, even though they're 2 basis points lower this morning. That is a tell that the global inflation cycle upturn, which preceded the war, is a thing.
But here in the U.S., inflation had been coming down from obviously the pandemic-induced levels here. It's nowhere near where the Fed wants it, but is it going to go higher? I guess it's a question.
Yeah, the answer is yes. That's the beauty of cycles, right? It's on or off. And there's a lot of noise, but what's the underlying direction? Inflation is going to go higher. I mean, you have coincident data starting to confirm that. Core PCE is over 3. Core PPI is approaching 4.
What's the Fed to do here?
They always have this issue, right? Everybody wants them to cut, and they might trot out transitory, right? That old tired word is going to come back. Let's say there's a ceasefire or things even get settled and oil prices come down. Transitory will be all over every single article. And what we're saying is there's a cyclical upturn. It goes much broader than simply oil prices.
What else would be driving inflation?
There's all kinds of things. There's bottlenecks in the system. We can go look at your supply chains and just talk about that if you want to. You could talk about productivity not exactly holding up, even though there's a great longer-term story. You could talk about pent-up demand at the top of the K, which is doing quite fine, thank you.
Right. I look, Lakshman, at where we are, and I think what people want to know after 8, 9, 10, 11 days up, the shock of, there's a war, okay, stock market straight down, the snapback like truly we've never seen. And I think the heart of the matter is your inflation a nominal GDP animal spirit, which is good for the stock market? It's a summary. So the allocators, the big shops that we're talking to, are wondering, tell me, can this be an inflationary boom or is it something else? So that's your hope, is that it's an inflationary boom. And we're going to get whiffs of that. You're getting some of that right now. But is that really what's going to happen if inflation is persistent to the upside and the Fed can't do what it hopes and AI doesn't give you productivity gains tomorrow? Okay, can I audible? Is that okay? I want to do this, folks. I think it's really, really important. This stuff just doesn't come out of thin air. And this goes to Mike Bloomberg, who, of course, is the founder and owner of all of Bloomberg Media, including what we do here at Bloomberg Surveillance on YouTube. And it's also like, I think of the Frick Museum and some of the shows they've had and the incredible leadership of Steve Schwartzman and a complete redo of the Frick. Your family's so forever involved with the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I want to shout out Morgan Stanley are the ones that got this going with Ken Griffith, and also a wonderful family, Jesse and Charles Price of Dallas, to put on a once-in-a-lifetime show at the Met
on Raphael. Have you seen it yet? Have you been? I haven't been over yet.
Let's go together.
I'll
go there with you.
He gets in through the fancy as well. But this stuff just does. Lakshman,
no, it doesn't just happen.
It doesn't just happen. How does it happen?
People care. I mean, look, it's a blessing to do well, right? And you have to make a decision. There was I thought a horrible article, by the way. I'm going off script too. There was a horrible article in the Times about how this altruism and philanthropy is a joke. I just take offense to that. I just don't feel that way. I look at it the other way, which is if you're lucky enough and blessed enough, why not invest in your community?
Because of people like your family and Morgan Stanley and Ken Griffith and the rest of it, Anthony and Lulu Wang and the rest. I sat 5 inches from Henry VIII's prayer book.
And that's transformative. I could see it affected you, right? That's transformative when that happens.
Folks, it had his own handwriting in it, arguing with the Bible. Who does that sound like?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it gives you a lot of meaning to what's going on right now. I mean, you could type a bunch of stuff into Claude or ChatGPT and it tells you what's happening. But what's really happening? When you sit down and look at that painting, something's happening.
Right.
That's what I believe.